Australia's property boom is showing signs of a significant slowdown.
Auction clearance rates have slumped to a 3-year low amid concerns over rising interest rates. For more, we've brought in our senior economist, Dr. Andrew Wilson. Andrew, good to see you, mate. So, clearance rates fell on Sydney to 65% on Saturday. That's very low. Is this an indicator? People are starting to say the sky's falling. Will the housing market start to crash?
I don't think the housing market will crash per se. And we've got to understand that the real boom energy has been a Sydney and maybe to a lesser degree Melbourne story over the last 3 years. But look, confidence was hit on the weekend clearly with those the news of higher interest rates from Westpac. And the market sentiment's been a little fragile, but we're still probably evenly balanced between buyers and sellers in that Sydney market. And the Melbourne market had a 73% clearance rate. So, but look, it is a sign of the times. It is a sign that the market is running out of energy. And we're not going to expect the amazing price growth that we've had in the Sydney market over the last 3 years. Much flatter outlook. And, you know, we might even see clearance rates falling below 60% this year in Sydney. And that would be a significant fall from the 90% we were getting in May. And it is, I guess, becoming a little bit more nervous for sellers. And we are going to see also significant numbers of auctions being conducted in Sydney up to the end of the year.
Andrew, you did mention that Westpac increased their mortgage interest rates last week.
Yeah.
So how much of an impact or how much is that linked to the slowdown?
Well, it's certainly linked, I believe, to the sharp fall in the clearance rate on the weekend. Sentiment-driven rather than affordability-driven. But look, nothing puts the brakes on a housing market more than higher interest rates and even the prospect of higher interest rates. And I think that made some buyers a little bit skittish on the weekend in a market that's already been backtracking.
When do you think the other banks will follow?
Well, I think that the reasoning behind the Westpac rise certainly should be appropriate for the other banks as well, when they're trying to protect their shareholders because they've got have higher levels of capital reserves. So wouldn't the banks be in the same boat? But look, this may actually influence the Reserve Bank to cut interest rates at Melbourne Cup Day. So, and that might offset some of those issues.
So what are we saying here? We're saying nationwide that this boom has peaked?
Oh, absolutely. Particularly prices growth. I think we'll still see prices growth in Sydney and Melbourne, quite solid, but it will start to deflate. But in an orderly fashion. I think we're going to see a crash in prices, but we've certainly seen a very steep fall in that auction market.
So the weekend's results would signify you know, this is now becoming a buyer's market?
Well, I think we'd need to get below 60% clearance rates to see that. But some of those western suburbs in Sydney actually had 40% clearance rates on the weekend. And I think buyers would be pretty happy with that sort of level of lack of competition for property. But I think sellers would be very happy because they'd probably be really struggling to find a buyer out in those suburbs at the moment. But there's a lot of water to go under the bridge yet.
All right, so it's not going to be a sudden drop. It's more going to be, it's more going to be just a sort of, you know, petering down. When will the prices start to even out? So if you're a buyer out there and you want to buy, when can you expect to think, well, this is a good time? Well,
I think prices will gradually move back to maybe in Sydney around about a 5% per year growth rate. And of course, we've had 15, 20% over the last couple of years. So, and I think the future is for a much flatter housing cycle. We're sort of catching up to the rest of the world, low growth, low inflation, low interest rates, and that'll mean low house price growth in the future. So a bit more certainty and maybe some better news for first home buyers.
We'll look forward to Melbourne Cup Day. The predicted interest rate cut. Thank you very much, Andrew.